In an alternate universe, Al Gore won the election in 2000, and this scenario plays out in today's game Labyrinth, here on Legendary Tactics. And so I'm playing a game of You Can Call Me Al, which is the variation on Let's Roll. And oddly, the jihadi player draws Let's Roll as their first card.
It couldn't be more appropriate.
Yes. Now, I am up against the bot here. So the bot's essentially a flowchart.
Yeah.
But I think it plays reasonably well. It does a lot of recruiting, I'll tell you that much.
Really, eh? Okay.
But they've really, if you haven't played the Labyrinth, early access Labyrinth in a while, they've really beefed it up. Like
have there been some
added
updates
a lot
to
of
it?
little touches. Yeah, like you can see how it has the red bar across the events that are non-playable.
Oh, very cool. All right, so it actually
you can
like
tell right
yeah,
away.
Yeah,
so you can say, oh, this is a good time to play martyrdom operations because it's unplayable by like the event won't happen. Right,
for your opponent. Yes,
right, and for yours as well.
Okay.
So there's a few little subtle things, and the graphics at the beginning of the game and stuff were really, really good. So
see, now I don't know, how do you feel about that? Because that takes away a little bit from the purest of the game, having to actually like go through, read your cards, know what you have. Like with those great big red banners on now, you're like, oh,
yeah,
okay. I mean, I guess in some ways they've dumbed it down.
Yeah, it makes it more accessible. I'm not that bothered by it.
Okay.
But in this scenario, it's just like Let's Roll, except you start off soft on terror, not hard on terror. So
right.
So usually you got to do some war of ideas to get things flipped around. Of course, Spain went hard on terror on me, and now I've got it to neutral. So that's
and just for those watching, NATO, what does a soft mean? If you're soft on terror?
Well, it's the stance on essentially the terror that the world has versus the U.S. position on it. And so you can see the idea is that Al Gore won the election. That's the scenario. Okay. So instead of George W. Bush, it was Al Gore in charge.
The softer, gentler Democrat.
Yeah, Democrats.
Right.
So,
okay.
So
that's interesting.
So what's in game terms, what changes is if you are soft on terror, you can't do things like regime changes.
Oh, okay. You can't go into the
only
country
do you can only do diplomacy. So I'm playing all the cards that I know, like Abu Ghraib and stuff, that are not going to be an issue for me, and I'm looking to get some war of ideas going, because that's the power of the U.S. in this scenario is wars of ideas.
So use it to your advantage. Absolutely.
Yeah. Because you've got a +1 modifier and in the beginning, so you may as well run the table on this as much as possible.
Well, I gotta say, NATO, I generally and by generally always play the jihadists, so it's really kind of awesome to get insight into your thinkings on how the Americans
so
can play. Yeah,
time.
that's right. Mind you, we don't normally play this scenario, so
no. So you can see basically the AI did a lot of recruiting, and then moved into Pakistan. So I'm looking to.
Now it looks like you already have is it Gulf states there? It's really starting to come along, and Pakistan is.
Well, Gulf states starts at that. I managed to get Pakistan to ally.
Okay.
And so I'm now that they're allied, then I can at least move troops around in them and make sure I'm fending off any.
I mean, Afghanistan is quite a little nest of.
Yeah. There's a lot of them.
Wow.
So I'm doing a lot of disrupting. It's, again, if you're playing this scenario early on, disruption is key, because you want to. One of the nice things is that if you do wars of ideas in any non-Muslim countries, they're likely going to, like, you have a 66% chance they're going to flip to soft. And so that gives you a prestige bump every time. So it's very easy to get very high prestige in this scenario, and then try and run the table, which I'm trying. So
that's sort of like a working goal here, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So the AI tried to to destabilize Pakistan, and they weren't able to do it. So So that's good. So because it wasn't a plot, they attempted a minor jihad. Then when they missed, the cell had to go back to the track.
Oh, and that's I just saw that one. Yeah, creep back there. So that must have been that. Okay.
So now it's see, I've got my prestige at 10 now, so that's +2 to the Wars of Ideas. The only problem is Al Jazeera is going to shift Gulf states to neutral because I've got troops there.
So you can play it and can you not just hold it and discard it to the end?
I could, but it is 3 operations points, and that's pretty valuable. So I'm just trying to think right now, like, what order should I play these in? Is it worth me moving the troops away from Gulf states, or is it better to just let the event happen, shift it to neutral? Gulf states is a pretty safe spot in many ways.
Okay.
But you can
see it is you don't want to let that get away on you, though.
Yeah, but if you look the global the GWOT track,
global war on terror,
is against me, so I'm having to try and flip. See, I'm soft, and you can see that it's pretty.
Yeah, it's in the hard position. So yeah.
It makes it very tough to do Wars of Ideas if that's the case. So I can't really do much until I've got that swung back
to where you need it to be.
So I have to do this. I'm going to try in Italy to flip it over. I managed to do that, so we're good to go for the next turn, but at the expense of Gulf states shifting to neutral. So
yeah, and did you have to play that Al Jazeera card too?
I did, yeah, because I missed on my other rolls.
Okay.
So this part of the game is actually improved. Like they've tweaked this part. I don't know if you've seen this, but they've got the little end of turn summary, which is
that's neat.
You know, moves a little bit slowly, but it's actually kind of nice.
Well, it gives you a good recap.
It does. Yeah, it gives you a nice recap to
sort of sum up what's happened, and away you go. Yeah. And I did miss it there. Does it tell you how many cards you get too? And
yeah, we got 9. We got the full 9, and so did the AI. So
okay.
Okay. And
so you were saying the AI follows a spreadsheet, so it actually follows a very formulaic kind of pattern that you can actually trace to the spreadsheet.
There's certain, and this is where, for better or for worse, you can kind of game the AI. It's a fairly decent opponent because of the way the game works and the luck involved, but the way the AI works generally is it recruits a lot, then it begins to travel, and then if it can get enough cells together, it'll do things like jihad and stuff. If you get its funding down, it starts to plot like crazy. So that's basically
it does not like its funding low.
It doesn't like when I'm playing you. It does not like it when its funding is low. So you can kind of mess with it a little bit sometimes, in the sense that you know how it's likely to react.
Okay. So at this current situation, its funding's pretty high. It's probably going to start traveling.
So it's going to start traveling around. So I'm basically weighing the options between disrupting and doing Wars of Ideas. So I managed to get Pakistan to good governance, which is a bit of a gamble because I'm trying to ruin their chances to make it very hard for them. And they missed on the first roll for their minor jihad, missed on the second roll, and missed on the third roll.
Oh, yeah.
Now they're much more likely, like you as a player are playing you're much more likely to plot. They're fine with killing cells off to
it seems like willy-nilly. I don't care. There's three gone right off the hop. Okay.
Well, the benefit of that, like when you plot, the problem is that I do have the opportunity to alert it. So you could try and plot in Pakistan, you maybe get one, but then I can block it, then I can disrupt and just with just a one operations point, I can disrupt a couple of cells and gain a prestige in doing that. So so it's tough in good governance countries anyway. But the one thing, there's 2 cards in my hand that I'm really upset that they're in my hand. Number 1 is clean operatives, because that's the best event for the cell for the jihadis in the game.
Pakistani
offensive removes Fatah, as its event effect.
Oh.
But it's so early in the game, Fatah hasn't come out yet.
So you've gotten like, a bad time.
Yeah, so it was like, oh, do I hang on to it? Because I know Fatah's coming.
Yeah, but how long you have to wait for?
Event. Exactly.
Yeah, but what's your first blush plan for clean operatives?
Well, I'm probably just gonna have to hold it and discard it, right? Because I'd love to hold on to Pakistani offensive for the next turn, but with clean operatives in hand, I just can't afford it because they can just go anywhere, right?
Yeah.
And usually the U.S. It's not usually terrible, but it's just generally a card you just don't want to play.
Yeah.
And this I was playing a bit more cautiously. It was my first game that I played of this in a while, so I thought, well, you know what, I'll just play it cautiously. And actually, part of my idea was get the world on my side. I'm going to try and run the board early because I have some great modifiers. Like I got 11 prestige, and the world is on my side.
Doing just
I've got
fine
some
there,
amazing
man.
rolls to affect the to affect the wars of ideas.
Oh,
so
wow. He played Mobilism to get back up to 9 funding again. Jeez. He was only at 8 or 7. Like, I
know.
That's
but you see here, I just got Gulf states to ally again and now to good. And then we'll go for Saudi. And I actually missed that, of course. My typical luck. but with odds like that, and then he, of course, did a minor jihad and got 2 hits, so I'm back down to poor governance. But I just couldn't bring myself to play clean operatives, so I'm going to
I couldn't do it, eh?
Yeah.
You had to let it go.
But I'm thinking, hey, prestige 11, that's pretty good.
That's very good.
Going into a fresh hand, I get 9 cards still, full hand, and if I get Saudi Arabia to good, I get Pakistan back up to good, and then Indonesia. That's the typical group that you will focus on to get pretty much to victory. Because then after that, you just need one value country to get to victory after that. But then he hits me with bin Laden, which lowers my prestige by 4.
Oh,
so it knocks it down to 6, which was pretty
that's punishing. Brutal. Now you gotta reset.
I gotta rebuild now.
Yeah.
And one of the ways you can do that is by disrupting. And luckily they moved into Gulf states.
So which is great. It's a one banger too. So that's awesome.
Yeah. Yep. So I can do a couple of disruptions.
Very cheaply.
I've got a couple of I've got biometrics and Danish cartoons and so forth. So I'm just kind of looking at different options.
How much stock do you put into the event cards, the events on the cards versus the using them for disrupting, for movement?
Well, it depends on. I generally find I need all the ops I can get, but obviously if there's a great event, I'll take it. But many times, like in this case, I wanted to use up those 2 ops cards, those 2 1-ops cards. To gain 2 prestige. Now it bumps me up to 8. Sorry, I've got a +1 modifier again.
Okay.
Luckily, and a card like Quagmire doesn't affect you as much when you're soft posture. So that's pretty cool. So there's a lot of these cards like Abu Ghraib and Quagmire that you don't have to worry about, which is actually quite nice.
Right.
But as far as the events,
here we go.
Exactly.
Here we go.
And of course, the Republicans win, and I flip.
Oh,
so now I've got to swing the world back to see things my way.
And that's harder to do that because getting a hard result is tougher than the soft.
Yes, yeah, and
well, that's annoying.
So interesting. This is another thing the AI does is attempts to travel to Gulf states directly by flying, so they have to roll to see if they can get there. And end up losing 3 cells on
I don't understand. That doesn't seem very sensible to me. When you could, just
Yeah.
travel straight south, and you could spend another turn and get 3 of them in, or wreak some havoc in Pakistan down there.
Yeah, I agree, but that's just
that's the nature of the bot, I suppose.
How it works, yeah. So now I have some other cards here, but I'm really looking to get my my prestige backup. I have to flip all these guys to hard posture. Now, I got lucky in Italy. Was able to get them to see things my way. But as I said, in general, I mean, I use some events, but a lot of times I find I need to play the cards for the ops most times, just in order to try and get things done.
Right.
And again, in this game, I was trying to run the board quickly because I had good prestige, and then the election happened. Unfortunately, it hurt me. But but I'm still in a position where I've got good ops in hand, and I could. Again, if I could get Saudi Arabia to good, Pakistan to good, it could be a completely different game. And right now you can see the GWOT marker over on the bottom left there is in neutral position. And I actually quite like it there because even though there are bonuses when the world is at 3 and on your side, I kind of like, because if you do have to flip either by reassessment or by the election card, then
it's not a big deal.
It doesn't matter to you.
It's not a big deal.
So, yeah, exactly. So I'm just defending Pakistan here a bit, getting a bit of a prestige bump, and so now I'm going to try my War of Ideas in Saudi Arabia, see how I do there.
I was going to ask you about your impression of the AI in events. Like, I'm just noticing he's playing the Schroeder and Chirac event right now. But does the AI seem to play a lot of its events, or will it?
Yeah, they will always play their events. Like, there's a certain they'll always play their events. They never trigger your events, which is a pain. So if they play one of your own events, they don't
trigger.
They don't trigger. And so I saved Amerithrax for last because that is a card where I'd have to discard a US event, and so I didn't want to do that. So I just saved it for last, just pure mitigation. But now I'm lost because Chirac and
Schroeder
or whatever, they shifted the world to soft, so I had to spend another War of Ideas getting it back to neutral again.
This has just been a back and forth tussle.
And the AI tries again in Gulf states and misses, so they lose a cell there, which I'm fine with. The only thing is when they do hit, the problem is that it can set you back. It's not like a plot where you can block it. It's something that just happens, and you have to get it back up to good governance again. Yep. I'm still hoping that this turn I can pull off a relatively quick victory by getting Pakistan to good, and then moving on to Indonesia. But
you've been making some good hay as far as that goes.
Yeah,
I mean,
well, I had some reasonably good cards.
Yeah, I would say there's just been a few cards to sort of upset the apple cart.
Yes.
That have just caused you a bit of grief, and now you're but you still have a fair bit of momentum with your. Is that Saudi Arabia? Yeah. Saudi Arabia and Gulf states. There's 6 right there.
Yep. So plot landed in the Philippines.
Do they all? You'll have to forgive me. Do they all need to be connected? Your good states, or can you have them?
No, they just need to be a total up 12 resources. So right now I have 6 resources.
Okay.
And the jihadi needs 6 resources at Islamist regime.
Right. Okay.
So I'm at 6 resources to 1 right now. So I'm winning, but
yeah,
it's still early.
The game is.
But I'm really hoping to run the board quickly here, and so I'm gonna take that and put it in reserves, and then It's what's nice about that red band across the cards is you're like, okay, I got to play these quickly.
Especially when they're the green things.
Yes, when they're the green events.
The green events. Get them out.
Yeah. So the funding ended up happening. So he boosted his funding back to 7, and playing that event, which I don't really have a problem with. I mean, Syria is not. In the base game,
ops, though, this is not a bad event there.
Well, yeah, but
except
he's using it in the Philippines. It's not going to hurt my prestige because it's a little bit off the beaten track. But from a funding perspective, yes. And so right now I'm already looking at oil spike. I'm like, what can I bring back that's
going to be helpful
using?
Oh, what about?
I was thinking let's roll, but the plot isn't in an ally or good country, so.
What about that card that you said that you wish you didn't have yet? You Pakistani offensive. That's it.
Yeah, but Fatah hasn't come out yet, so.
So you'd be bringing it back just to hold on to it still.
Yeah, but I'm probably gonna have to use my card again to get rid of XKGB. That's a card that I don't want to
allow
to
him
play,
to have.
So. Yeah. So I was thinking, well, you know what? I'll hang on to oil spike. We'll see if there's any other decent event that comes past. You know, if the AI is going to play a decent event, then let's just hang on to oil price spike and use it later.
Okay.
And just
that's a pretty handy card at any point in the game.
Yeah, you can see the world is against me again.
And actually, it's kind of getting harder and harder, or softer and softer against you.
Yep. So I took the Patriot Act event because I found that the Patriot Act is one of those events. It's expensive in the short term because you give up 3 operations points, but it's amazing in the long term because it activates the sanctions card. And the sanctions is a 1-op card that causes the jihadists to lose 2 funding. So it's really powerful.
Excellent.
So, so there's some cadres that turn up in Gulf states there.
Yeah, nothing to worry about.
Yeah. Well, it's potentially an issue.
I think your bigger hassle right now is trying to get that world hard again.
Yeah, it's just that's the AI just played that part of it really well.
Yeah,
it seems constantly trying.
Seems like it's been a decent challenge for you.
Oh yeah, I think the AI is actually a pretty decent.
I would probably question a few of its moves so far, but in general, what I've seen is like a pretty solid jihadi plays.
Yeah. Now this is actually a play I love to do, especially against the AI. Is if I can play any of the events which place cells in random spots around the board, because I'm not dealing with an intelligent opponent like a human, the way a human being would be. So a lot of these cells end up like the one in India or whatever, or Somalia, they just end up kind of stray cells, and they just kind of they
never do anything. They just sort of linger there forever.
nothing really compelling, or they take a long time to build up. But even if Somalia ends up flipping to Islamist regime, oh well, it's a
one banger. Yeah.
So again, I'm
and the amount of effort and work it would take to get that Somalia to Islamist regime.
Yeah,
exactly. I guess if you start flying cells down there, maybe that'll work. But
yes, and that's what the flowchart I believe does at some point. But I'm scanning through. I'm like, geez, there's been like, what do I pick up? There's nothing really that helps.
There's nothing really appealing right now, eh? Okay.
Like King Abdullah is marginally good, but
isn't King Abdullah the one where he will lose a whole bunch of funding?
No, he loses 1 funding and I get 1 prestige, and it sets Jordan to fair ally, which is fine, but it's not necessarily
it's not mind blowing at this point.
Yeah, but I was scanning. Do I set Turkey to fair ally? I guess so. There wasn't really anything that really jumped out. So I was thinking, well, you know what? If we're approaching the end of the turn, and if I can I was thinking if there's a way that I can hurt the funding. This is testing Turkey, and that could potentially go well. Actually, Hijab may have been a decent pick, because if you roll well, Turkey can actually start out as a good. With Hijab, it can actually start out as good.
Oh, that's the one you really just wish that Fatah was out.
Yeah, but I just don't have anything compelling, and I'm like, oh, do I set Benelux's posture? I guess so.
Jeez, yeah. Well, I guess the world's back to neutral, which is good.
Yeah, so I'm thinking, well, maybe let's do that and give myself a bit of insurance, maybe. But I ended up using it in the reserves, and I knew I was going to waste some ops here, but.
What was the thought to putting it in reserves then?
Well, because I have oil price spike. I would love to use those operations points, but I really want to take the event if I can.
Yeah.
It's just that the other two cards are not sufficient for what I need it to do, which is because I've got the 2 at good, but everything else is at poor. So I need 3 ops to do anything.
So 2s are you're in between.
2s are they're not really useful to me right now. So
so that's you're not tempted to actually use the oil spike for a 3, are you?
Well, as I said, I'm hoping to use it for the event, but the problem is that XKGB is not an event I want to happen either. So
oh dear.
I was kind of looking at this one and trying to flip it. I managed to flip it, so we're back to neutral again. And then I'm like, okay, well, let's take the event and we'll pick something anyway, anything that might help my cause here.
Yeah.
And there's a few that are okay in there, but the fact that Afghanistan is Islamist rule means that the Al-Azhar is not as good. It's only -2 funding. It's not -4, which if you're Islamist regime free is a great card, but otherwise it's okay. But I'm not even thinking like, man, even sanctions is a decent pick because at least it hurts the funding.
Yeah, I know.
But yeah, it took a long time. I was really stewing about this choice because there really wasn't anything that helped, and it's tough when you've got you need ops. I ended up taking sanctions because I'm thinking, well, my thinking was I'll play it at the end, and the funding will drop to 7, and then at the end of the turn, so now it's at 7. So now the end of the round it'll go down to 6. The AI has 1 less card. And is probably going to have to focus on plotting, which is going to give me a bit of time to kind of figure out what to do next. Yeah. So I was kind of gaming the AI a little bit here, but
it's using your inside knowledge. But
I just couldn't play XKGB. It just didn't. I just didn't want it to trigger, so I ended up kind of wasting my oil price spike.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, but you didn't have a lot of options with it. I don't know what else you could have done, really.
Yeah. And so,
I mean, there were some like lateral ideas, I suppose. Yeah, like you suggested the other options, but they were, maybe just as good in different ways.
Yeah, so you can see the plots beginning to happen and missing mostly, but finally got 1. So that's
Somalia.
That's something, and so I'm like, oh, what do I do? Do I alert it?
That's a far way to do.
This one actually becomes more attractive. The regional.
Now, were you trying to? Are you trying to keep the thumb on his 6 funding, or did you at this point are you like, you know what, whatever?
Yeah, I don't really worry about it. I was just trying to again. I was headed in my head that I could win quickly as long as I got a couple of. As long as I got a few things in a row that would work, but yeah, but my hand wasn't amazing either, and so I'm thinking, well, let's do the unthinkable here and do a regime change in Afghanistan. Now this was my gamble because I'm at prestige 6. I'm hoping that my prestige goes up in this case.
Okay.
So. Yeah, here I was trying to just figure out the user interface a little bit. Like, what do I got to do
How
next?
does this work?
But I didn't realize I had to go up to the troop track. So if other players are watching this and you play a regime change card, you have to go to the troop track. I end up clicking undo and trying again. But you have to choose where you're going to do the regime change, which is Afghanistan. And then if you look at the top, you'll see the troop track light up. And see, then I'm like, oh, I see what I'm doing here. Okay. So I put
there it is. There they come now. Yeah.
And I'm hoping for a bump in prestige. It drops by 2.
The exact opposite.
And Afghanistan ends up as a poor
oh, great.
ally.
Oh, great.
And now, I wasn't... Now that actually activates Zawahiri, which is great, but I've got to play this carefully because that card is going to be
Ooh,
it's better.
Taliban.
Yeah, but that's actually better without a regime change. So I was thinking, well, let's do some disruption and gain some prestige at least.
Okay.
Or at least cancel out the prestige loss. Because again, my goal, I've got to get 5 more troops than cells in that country in order to get it to
start flipping it.
In order to stop, in order to start working my magic. Of course, those units end up going right back. The cells end up coming right back.
Oh, do you test your if you're soft or hard when you do a regime change?
Yes, and I stayed hard on.
Oh, you did stay hard. Okay, I didn't catch that. Okay, so you
Yes.
stayed hard. And
it just summarizes it in one screen. Then he picks up Lebanon War, which is
great.
I lose a prestige and a random card, and I end up losing covert action here, which is fine. It's not a great event. I mean, it's a friendly event. But
Yeah. You never liked it, well, especially because you got a lot of green left here, so you have a lot.
Yeah, and he places the cell in Pakistan, of course, but that does open up regional Al Qaeda, which now cannot be utilized because there's no cells on the track. So there's no benefit.
Dump it while you can dump it.
Yep. So I was looking for that, which is great. And then I'm trying to figure out what I should do next here. I figure, well, I better get rid of this one before it's too late. So
and it becomes playable.
Reserves.
Yes.
Get that out of play. I like Nest as an event, but I may need to use it for the operations points here.
It feels like your event cards have just come out of sync this game, from what I've been gauging. Like
I started out well, and then suddenly this stuff starts happening.
Like you're getting great cards, but you're just getting them out of order. Sort of is for you're getting cards before you need them, or there's nothing in the discard pile that you can use for oil spike and Did you have a bit of a bit of a sense for that throughout the game, where you just like, I just feel like it's
So I find Labyrinth as a game, things are either flowing or they're not. See, I just lost Zawahiri because of the event that he played Al Ambar, which canceled that event. Which is nasty because it would remove the card and hit him for 2 funding. I was saving it for later, but anyway, it ended up being not useful at all.
Yeah.
And now I'm just trying to pull my prestige out of the toilet here.
Man, it has just been that's been a big struggle this game.
And as I said, so I took Nest for the event because I like that as an event. It's very useful if we get to that stage. But I find sometimes you're either flowing or you're not. And I felt early on I had a pretty good flow. And then the election actually is what upset the whole thing. And then if he plays Fatah for the event.
And there's Fatah, finally.
So now I can't disrupt in Pakistan anymore.
Nope. So that's right.
That is such a pain. And of course, I've already had an oil price spike go past. And I had Pakistani offensive in hand.
Yeah.
But I would never have been able to hold it this long, though.
No, it would have been unreasonable.
Workable.
Yeah.
So I'm just gonna have to wait until the deck reshuffles and.
Is that your only way around it right now?
Yeah, at the moment, unless I think there might.
Is there a second oil spike?
There might be a third. There might be a third oil spike.
I think there is.
I had one. The AI had one.
Okay, so there might be a third.
Yeah. So right now I'm.
So really, Pakistan is plumb for the picking for the AI.
Potentially, yes, and that's the risk. Now the only thing that is good is I can deploy troops there, and so as long as I have enough troops in there, that it's going to be the more cells he needs to move in to do anything serious. So I did a disrupt with again wasting 1 operations point, and then gave him Schengen visas, which I thought, well, we'll see what happens. He ended up going to Italy, which is fine. I was worried he was going to go to some of the untested countries in the Schengen.
Oh, right, right. And maybe flip those to soft or something.
Maybe flip those, yeah. But luckily,
he chose not to.
He didn't. And he's, of course, recruiting right back into Afghanistan. I'm like, okay, this is a real quagmire. This is
renditions that should have affected, but I guess not because you're not. It's the AI.
The AI
never triggers.
If the AI never triggers a U.S. event.
Yeah.
So that's what.
Because there goes renditions.
It
would have been an effect. Oh,
it could have been helpful. Yeah. But you can see that. He just keeps recruiting right back into Afghanistan.
Wow.
And I'm still stuck. I've got those 6 troops there stuck in a regime change. And I've got a long ways to go here. And I'm down to 8 cards here. And
he seems...
9.
Yeah, you know what? Like I've just noticed that he just wants to get all pieces on the board.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
It feels like it's going to be a bit of a tussle to get Afghanistan where you need it.
Yeah. So, but he's traveling 3 guys within Afghanistan, and that's just to put them underground, and then moving 1 to Indonesia, and 1 tried to move, they all tried to come back to Afghanistan, but one of them failed. So I'm looking at my hand, and I'm like, well, Gitmo's okay, but it's only good at preventing recruiting but all those pieces are on the board already, so
he won't be there's no
it doesn't really help. I mean, the prestige roll might help, so I was thinking, okay, well, let's roll prestige, see what happens. I lose 4 prestige, so I'm down to 1 prestige.
Oh no,
like, okay,
the absolute tank.
Yeah. So I'm like, okay, well, let's do some disruption. We'll start building from the ground up, and I have Tony Blair in hand. So I'm thinking, okay, well, Tony Blair can give me some rolls in the Schengen area, and perhaps I can get lucky and roll get some prestige.
Do you want to target some of the soft countries and see if you can flip them to hard? Is that the idea?
Yeah, exactly. Okay. So it's a bit of a gamble, but I do get, I think, 3 rolls with Tony Blair. I get to roll in 3 Schengen countries, and I get to select the UK posture.
Now, you don't get an instant bump. You only get a bump if you flip it, right?
Well, only if the roll matches my posture. So I need if I roll 5 or 6 and they match me, then I get a prestige.
Oh, I see. Okay.
That's why it's easier to build your prestige when you're soft on terror, because you can. If you do a War of Ideas, you roll 1 to 4, it matches you more often.
Yeah.
It's not a 50-50.
Okay.
But I was just thinking, well, you know what, the timing on that, I want to see if I can get, I was just, thinking what would be the best combo here. So
I'm actually a little bit surprised. Like, I mean, we're on turn, what round are we on? It's not round 6, is it?
Round 6, yeah, turn 6.
And I haven't really seen him leave Afghanistan with his cells, like a few here and there, but like, I mean, if you look at it, like, this looks like it was almost in the first turn. In the first round.
Yeah, no, I agree. So
very interesting.
I'm looking at the events now. Most of them are 2 ops, which are not. Again, I'm stuck in this spot where I need 3 ops.
3 ops,
to do anything. And this Vieira de Mello Slain is not a good event for me. So I'm having to put cards in reserves and basically taking one less
op.
One less actual
play. Are you wasting
play.
the op every time? Yeah.
Yeah.
Or one extra. One less play even. Yeah.
And I took the event, I don't know, I think out of exasperation more than anything.
Yeah, this seems a little bit. I can definitely feel that you're up against it here. I mean, your funding's in the tank.
Yeah.
The world's against you.
I couldn't disrupt to improve my prestige because there's 2 plots in Afghanistan. So there's no point because it was going to just knock my prestige back down. Right? So I thought, well, there's no point in. That's why I didn't play Tony Blair right then, because I had 2 plots in Afghanistan. I'm like, I'm going to lose the prestige that I gained. So then he plays Gaza War and discards Tony Blair on me.
Oh, jeez.
So,
oh, NATO, everything is going sideways here.
I know.
Oh, jeez, and his funding's at a perfect 9.
And look at the GWOT track is soft. I'm hard, right? So
is there any glimmer that you see right now that you're thinking, okay, maybe I gotta hang on to this, because I don't know, like, is there anything you can do with your prestige in the tank? Like, can you throw caution to the wind a little bit and say, okay, I don't have to worry about...
Well, yeah, I mean, I can let plots happen in places where I've got troops. I can disregard, some events.
Okay.
But the point is, I've got to build my prestige up before I can do any wars of ideas, right? That's the big problem.
Yeah.
So, and he is just plot, just, which is going to, hurt my prestige. I don't have enough ops to alert the plot.
You just gotta let it happen.
Foreign fighters to bring a whole bunch more cells back into Afghanistan.
Afghanistan, jeez. Now, I have to be honest. There's one smart play with that Afghanistan plays, because it's a regime change. I would be doing I would not be ever getting under how many troops you have.
Yes.
So that is like spot on right, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. So, we're just kind of in a deadlock, because the thing is, though, the limitation is if you have all your cells in Afghanistan, then you can't...
You're not spreading out.
You're not winning the game either. So it's not really to your advantage.
It feels like a bit of a stalemate. It does feel like a bit of a stalemate.
Oh, it's really, this is total... In many ways, this is Labyrinth at its worst, because... the game can really bog down a little bit sometimes, and then I've had this happen in real games against humans and also against the AI. Is sometimes, especially as the US, you just feel like nothing's moving. Like literally, it's just this loop where it's you disrupt, they recruit, you disrupt, they recruit,
and it's just sort of like a ping pong game, eh?
Yeah, it is very much. So we're done the first deck. So we're back. This is the first deck reshuffle here. And things are looking a bit locked down here.
Yeah, a little bit.
As you can see, recruit. So he is going to recruit into Afghanistan again with both of those. And so I'm just trying to... I'm really just waiting for some sort of event... he plays the event to draw back my own event.
What?
It was the only card that was available.
Oh,
because it was the beginning of the deck
of the new shuffle.
So,
oh, jeez.
Yeah. So I'm like looking at events.
I feel like that could have been played a bit better, but that's just
well, but that's just the flow chart demanded that the AI had to play that event, and the only card available was that one, so that's what they had to draw.
Okay.
So just using events, trying to trim them down. Again, I've got one 3-ops card, two. I've got 2 3-ops cards, which is great, but still, the world is against me, and we're in this loop right now. I know this isn't the most entertaining for our viewers, but this is sometimes the game.
No, what the conundrum I've been trying to get my head around is, how do you get out of it? How do you dig yourself back out? Right. So you're in like the absolute hole here.
Yes.
I mean, I guess the world is starting to slowly come around to the hard side, which is good. But you don't really have a, your prestige is just in the tank.
I gotta work it up. Now, he traveled a cell to the US out of nowhere. I thought that I was in this loop, and then suddenly he just sends a cell there. So I'm like, oh, he must have martyrdom operation then, or something. So
are you alerting?
I was like,
no,
I can't alert it. I've got to disrupt him. Yeah,
and that'll get you a prestige.
No, not if it's in a non-Muslim country. I need to disrupt with troops. So yeah, it's just like burning more
cards,
burning more cards, burning more ops, because I didn't want that to
you couldn't risk
to
it
happen. Yeah, and I just didn't want that going on. So
get out of my house.
Because, exactly. It's never a good idea to have those in the US. So I ended up just burning a couple cards to get rid of them. And really, I didn't have much better to do. It wasn't like I was foregoing a better play.
Right.
But I thought, well, you know what, better just make sure that, this isn't.
It's going to come
issue.
back
and then
get
he plays that I think it was Indo-Pakistani talks or whatever that just happened. So Pakistan switches to neutral, and he adds a cell there. I can't disrupt that cell.
Oh dear.
Yeah, so it's just, I'm just barely hanging on. And I thought I got off to such a good start, but
yeah, I was feeling the same thing. Like you were getting basically what you've had the whole game is what you started with.
Yeah. And
but it just seems like it's been obstacle after obstacle, which is, I think it's part of the beauty of this game too. Is that you can't, you can't chart the course, the trajectory of this game very easily.
No, not at all.
Because the card hand you're getting, and it just you never know, right? So
yeah. So I ended up I disrupted, so I couldn't actually use the detainee release on that because the card was sorry, I forgot to mention he actually did a jihad in Afghanistan and flipped it to Islamist rule with my troops there.
Oh,
so I just sent them back to the track. And this is actually kind of a funny move because when it's Islamist regime, the U.S. can leave, obviously.
Yeah.
But I used my Predator to get him out of Pakistan because that was top priority.
Yeah.
And then he, of course, recruited those guys. And now, interestingly, now that Afghanistan's back to Islamist rule, he's focused on other countries like Gulf states and Somalia. Now, he missed in Somalia, but he actually got it in Gulf states. So he's going to try for Gulf states, and he misses.
Okay.
And that's his only move for that turn. So I'm thinking, well, what have I got to lose? My
prestige is in the absolute tank.
Prestige is in the tank. So there's no downside here. So why not do another regime change? Right back into Afghanistan. And so I send in those same 6 troops again.
I guess the only now is, are you willing to flip to soft?
Well, it won't do that, but it will it'll maybe give me a prestige boost. So I hit commit to see what happens next, and I'm thinking, okay, here we go.
Yeah.
This is going to be the maybe my way out of this. My prestige drops. It was already at 1 anyway, though. So however, Afghanistan ends up as a fair country.
Oh.
So that's helpful because I can
now
use
you
all
can
those
use
2 ops cards.
2 ops cards now become very practical.
Now. Yeah, do some major disruption.
Yeah.
And that's something that I can work with. Because again, the disruption is all about building that prestige up.
Right.
So he gets a cell in the UK, and now the UK actually tests, and it's hard. So that actually brings it back to neutral. So that's a progress.
Okay, so things are.
Then the AI panics because Afghanistan's at fair, and so tries to do a jihad. It misses with all 3 rolls, so 3 cells are gone now.
Oh boy, it's slowly starting to turn.
Yes, so it was kind of a funny move, but withdrawing the troops to the track and then sending them right back in again.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
It was the best possible move. So it was really quite funny.
That is kind of funny, actually.
Yeah, but now the board doesn't look too bad, really.
It's starting to turn a little your way.
Yeah. So.
I mean, you still have this Afghanistan issue you got to sort out because there's still
so
a lot.
He misses again in Afghanistan, loses another cell, and then he plays the event to travel 2 cells anywhere, and so he sends 2 cells to the United States, which is kind of the standard move for this. Now suddenly there's only 2 cells left in Afghanistan.
Wow, and you can disrupt there.
I can disrupt. It is affordable to me now. So I'm looking at the different options here.
Wow.
But suddenly it's looking a little more doable. Now, some of these, like IEDs, that's a card that applies when there's cells in a regime change country. So if I can get cells out, then I'm in pretty decent shape. A lot of these events that event won't trigger, for example. So so things were kind of shifting. I had that option of
you can actually use that for if he goes into Pakistan.
No, I actually couldn't because it wouldn't let me. It said, I think because the cadre is there.
Oh, it says there has to be a cell.
Blocking.
Oh, there has to be a cell.
Well, it says cell, but on the card, but it wouldn't let me play the event. So I just had to roll with that. I assumed it was because the cadre.
Oh, okay.
So I did another disruption in Afghanistan.
Yep. Knock those cells out.
And now I'm like, this is not as terrible a position as I was.
No, you've turned the tide a little bit here. I mean, your funding is still not, or sorry, your prestige is not great.
Yes.
That's okay. You can.
But if I can build the prestige up suddenly, because remember, I've got the neighboring good countries like Gulf states I could use to help out with Pakistan and maybe at least make it a 50-50 roll.
Yeah.
So there's some good potential there. So it's just a matter of kind of playing this the right way. Now the event is unplayable for opium, so I may as well use that while I can.
Sure.
And I was going to just disrupt in
That's
the US.
a lot of cells that don't get on the board.
Yeah, but look at how many cells are no longer on the board right now. So
I know, and the opium could have brought a bunch back, but luckily.
Yeah, but
all for naught.
So now the shift goes to Somalia, and I could see what the AI was up to because basically like grouping cells together, so that they could flip Somalia to an Islamist rule. But again, I'm not too concerned about that.
They're actually in a bit of trouble right now because they don't have an auto regime change or an auto recruit anywhere.
No, and so it's a lot harder to recruit.
Or do they do in Afghanistan? I guess.
Yes.
So
they do actually,
why are they? Now that seems a weird play to me. Why wouldn't they have gone and tried to block you in Afghanistan?
I don't know.
Yeah.
It was one of those weird things where the AI was trying something out. I don't know.
Yeah. Because that feels off. But
maybe there's something because there's an well, you know what? Maybe is the besieged regime in Somalia means it's very vulnerable to being flipped.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So maybe that's the calculus that they're doing. So I just got those cells out of the U.S. just so I didn't have to deal with them.
Yeah. Off your radar.
Well, you don't want a martyrdom operation to come around. I mean, it can really throw your plans out
sideways.
Of whack, yeah. Especially if I'm building up my prestige to some level. But the only problem was because he wasn't recruiting in Afghanistan, I had nowhere to disrupt to build my prestige anymore. So there was really not a lot of option. I didn't have enough troops on the track to do a regime change in Somalia if needed. So I'm actually just doing War of Ideas to try and boost my prestige. And I got one there from the Philippines. Now they travel within the Schengen
visas,
countries, and they all converge in Italy for whatever reason. I guess the food there is amazing.
Oh man, pizzeria, mamma mia!
Yeah, and then the expected jihad in Somalia. They got what they wanted there. They did lose one cell. But they got essentially Somalia's now.
Sistani. I've seen this card make an appearance.
And now that Somalia's on their side, they're moving back to Afghanistan. But I'm not upset about that necessarily because I needed the targets for disruption. The only problem was that Hijab is now unplayable, which would have been actually a nice event. That's one I really should have looked at because if you roll well, Turkey can start out as good governance.
Really, Okay, you can get that going real quick.
So here I was weighing XKGB as being, can you live with Asia being adversary? And I said, it's not really in play this game that much. So it shifts to adversary, and we did some disruption, and then Musharraf as well, get even more prestige that way, send some cells back to the track there. So definitely we're in much better shape overall.
Yeah.
Now prestige is up to 6, which is pretty decent, and he tries for Afghanistan to bring it down a peg and misses. So I definitely benefited from some negative rolls on his part.
Yeah, I mean,
sure.
and you know, I've seen just curious plays from time to time with him, but you know,
Yeah.
I don't know what's your thought.
It's not crazy play. Like it's not like it's really out of the like bizarre play or anything like that.
Yeah, and I guess like you said, you know, because I keep questioning why isn't he going into Afghanistan, but by not going in, he also is not letting you
not letting me disrupt either.
So I mean, it's kind of a double-edged sword, right? So
yeah. So anyway, I played the War of Ideas. I thought, well, let's give it a go in Pakistan, and missed that one. But I'm at a +1 modifier now for Pakistan. So I thought, well, it's gonna.
Oh, look at your prestige back up to 6. You're slowly you're making some good hay there. That's good.
Yep. And with the AI focused on Somalia,
the world is on your side now.
With me. Yeah. So I don't mind that.
So things are starting to definitely turn a corner here.
Yes, but what I need to get the goal now that I, at least roughly speaking, is to get Pakistan to good, and then to get Afghanistan to good, and then after that we just need Indonesia and we're done.
So okay, so that's I was going to say, what's your path to victory? So it's
the path to victory in Let's Roll and Call Me Al for the most part is U.S. getting Saudi, Gulf states, Pakistan, and Afghanistan to good governance, or occasionally Jordan, and either Iraq or Indonesia. Usually Indonesia, because Iraq starts out as an adversary, and unless you have an event which flips that,
it's not going to happen easily.
It's not going to happen easily. So so he uses the martyrdom operation to get some plots going and some funding back in Kenya, which isn't a terrible move. It's not a country that's going to be high
priority list. Yeah.
And so,
well, I mean, he's really putting Somalia in the crosshairs.
Yes.
Wow. In fact, I think he's over recruited there now. It looks like is there 2, 4, 6, 8?
Yeah. He's got, there's a lot of cells.
There's a lot of cells in there.
Yeah.
It's like, or 7.
Sure.
Yeah. Regardless, it's more than is needed for
for
the jihad. So.
But now again, I'm hunting for prestige. I've got to find ways to get prestige now, because I really do want to.
You wouldn't have thoughts of reassessing, would you?
I didn't really think of it much, but it is a potential
just to get prestige easier.
Move. Yeah, I actually ended up doing martyrdom operation to get rid of a cell in Italy, because that was the only opportunity there. Just trying to. But then I did got my War of Ideas at +2 modifier for Pakistan. So because of the aid that had arrived.
Oh, he flipped Somalia.
Missed the roll. Yeah, Somalia went to Islamist regime.
Oh my, okay.
So, but I have aid in Pakistan now, so that's up with a neighboring good country now. That's a +2 modifier, even if my prestige is average.
Okay.
So
you're not
now. I'm thinking this is my run for
Pakistan.
For Pakistan, this is my.
You got to make your push, eh?
My play, yeah.
Now you still Fatah is in effect though, right?
Yes, I can't disrupt there, but I can still do War of Ideas. That's fine.
Okay. Okay.
And he ended up flipping not only flipping Somalia to hard. So actually, the world is very much on my side.
Oh wow!
It's 3+3 hard now. So now the risk in that is if the election card comes out and the Democrats win, and then I've got to flip everything back over. But it's a little bit it's more of a time thing, because again the rules are more favorable, so you can. Generally flip it back, even if it's annoying and if it takes time.
Right. It just drags it out a little longer. Yeah.
Yeah, but this is, I think, where when the AI started doing this, like focusing on Somalia, yes, it's auto recruit, and yes, it prevents me from getting easy prestige.
But it's way out of the way.
But it's way out of the way, and I'm totally fine with that happening. So now I've got Pakistan to ally. And now it's about getting it to fair governance. So we're going to do another War of Ideas. and we of course missed that. It's one of the things that's really frustrating as the U.S. is you've got to just assume you're going to miss a bunch of rules. It's just part of the deal.
Part of the nature of the game, actually.
It's the nature of the game. Yeah. I mean, it's true of the jihadist as well, in that there's a lot of die rolls in that, and you can lose a lot of cells, and you can, there's a lot of that.
Hasn't the creator basically said though that it will work itself out? Yeah,
that was the Volko Runke has always said. There's so many die rolls in the game that the luck part of it averages out over. It should do over the course of a game. So
yeah.
Anyway, the AI tried to travel to Gulf states, so I think it's seeing the writing on the wall. So in this case, regional Al Qaeda is actually a decent event because again, it's going to send the I got Pakistan to fair, and then it's going to send that cell to some random location. In this case, I think it's Algeria.
Well.
Algeria, Tunisia. So it's like, but I have no problem. I do that anyway, even with human players. If I can scatter the cells everywhere, it costs time and operations points to get everyone together.
Right.
And so it's a pretty good strategy. And
so
now
keep them spread thin. That's what you're saying.
Yeah. And now I'm going for to try and get Pakistan to good. Of course, I missed that. But I'm in a good spot. I've got a +1 die roll modifier, so it's a 50-50 to get it to good, which is pretty.
Oh, and
I'm 2 lucky rolls away from getting Pakistan and Afghanistan to good, and there's not really a lot that
the AI is going to be able to do about it right now.
Now the AI is now focusing on.
Are you done your regime change? Is the regime change over in Afghanistan?
No, not yet.
Okay, that's why your troops are all sitting there.
That's what I'm looking to end.
Yeah, okay.
But now that I've got them at 2, it's like, you know what? I can probably get this. Now I missed with Pakistan, so try again. And we got it.
There you go. There's the hit.
So now it's beginning to look more and more certain that I'm going to be able to pull this out. But it doesn't stop them trying a jihad in Algeria.
Yeah, again, they're going for small fry.
One hit. There's one hit. So I believe that place is this besieged regime.
1 out of 3. So they lose a bunch of pieces.
Yeah, I'm fine with it. Although it's funny because this game can really turn quickly if you aren't careful. And you can't, even though the AI is kind of dumb, you can't underestimate it. It's surprising how
well, especially because there are it has the upside to your events don't trigger and things like that. So there are little subtleties that they've also built in to make it more difficult.
Yeah. And of course the cells are arriving in Pakistan and India.
They're okay.
Ready to hurt my my role here. So I believe you're gonna finish up
your plan is to finish up in Afghanistan and then move southeast into Indonesia.
Yes, that's pretty standard because Iraq is also a possibility, but Saudi Arabia, Gulf states, and Pakistan are in easy 8 resources, and then generally it's Indonesia. Takes you to 11, then you just need 1 more resource and you're there.
Okay.
So, yeah. And so China tests soft, which I'm actually okay with because I feel I'm a bit overcommitted in terms of where the world is.
Oh, wow. It's actually, it's right with you in the hard location there.
Yeah. And so, of course, the AI is plotting. I'm fine with that. It doesn't bother me.
Oh, its funding is down to 6 there. Okay.
Yeah. And so
now your prestige isn't doing it's okay, but it's not great.
Yeah, it's fine. I much prefer having at least a +1. But
yeah,
I played Abbas to get a prestige there, and going to go for the War of Ideas in Afghanistan. It's a 0 modifier, so I don't have any. It's not. It's a 5 or 6 basically to flip it. But I thought, well, you know what? I gotta keep pushing while I don't want an event to come in and ruin everything. And of course, that event Zawahiri comes in, lowers my prestige by 4. So that takes me down to 3 prestige again.
Oh, jeez.
And plays the Al Jazeera event and shifts Gulf State to neutral. So yes, it's
that ain't good.
No, so I need prestige. There's no cells to disrupt right now, so I just have to keep trying.
What can you do in this case? If there's
nothing,
there's nothing you
if
can
there's
do.
no cells to disrupt, then I've got to do Wars of Ideas and either you don't have to flip countries to hard, but you have to get them to recommit to your stance. So you generally want to, at this point, just do Wars of Ideas on countries that are already either empty or already on your side. Well, or I guess if you want to go all in, you could go for soft countries. So miss that roll.
Ugh.
Now I get to select the posture of Scandinavia for what that's worth. So, doesn't really matter much, but
I noticed you chose hard, even though the world is well with you.
Well, yeah, the world is well. Yeah, and that, you do get a bonus prestige for having the world at 3, and if they match your stance.
Okay.
So that's okay. They get 3 plots.
Oh wow.
1 in China, which doesn't really affect me at all, and then 2 in Algeria, Tunisia.
Oh, now what you yeah? So its funding's getting kind of low.
Yeah, well, that's why it's plotting.
Yeah, it's trying
panicking
to get back up into.
Now, I was so glad to see the KSM card. I take the event, which blocks the plots in one country, and I draw 2 cards. So that gave me some extra ops. Now, Fatah is already in play, so there's no real downside there.
Yes.
I can do a War of Ideas in Italy, hoping for a flip, but it didn't happen. So I'm still -1 prestige.
Yeah.
And yeah, because I just need to get it to neutral. I need my prestige at least 4, and then I can.
Do you find is it worth the hassle to do that with your prestige instead of just going in and like spending a few extra turns trying to hit what you need to hit?
Yeah, it depends. I mean, if you can spend a couple turns and potentially get your roll to 50-50. See, now he played Bin Laden, so I'm down to 1 prestige again.
Yeah.
So, it's one of those things where it's like you could try for it, I guess, but you may price yourself out of the market. I mean, in this case, I think I would need a 6. Maybe. I mean, you'd burn through a lot of cards, though, potentially. Like, you could burn through 6 cards before you get a hit.
Oh, okay. It's just a 6 that'll do it? That's pretty tight.
Yeah, at this point. And I just got rid of Fatah because I didn't want that cell turning up in Pakistan.
Yeah.
So,
okay.
Yeah, so, yeah, it's...
Wow, just when you're on the precipice of what looks like a sure victory, and then all of a sudden...
Yeah. Well, I could have gotten Zawahiri out of the deck, but I held on to it because I usually like to play cards that hit the jihadist funding towards the end of the turn.
Right.
So they don't have a chance to rebuild it. But that cost me because that card's come back to bite me at least that once. So...
Yeah.
It's just one of those things, right? But look who turned up. Tony Blair
is
back in hand. But here's another funny thing. A card that almost never gets used. Can you see which one is in hand that might be of great benefit to me? I didn't spot it right away either. See if you recognize the event. I've only got 3 U.S. events, so it shouldn't be that hard.
3. Well, it's not Buto.
No, well, Buto is pretty good.
Ethiopian Strikes.
Ethiopia Strikes.
Of course.
Yes,
a card that you would always overlook.
Yeah. Well, generally speaking, it's not one that comes into play very often. But when I was like, oh, okay, I'll just play Tony Blair, see if we can get some prestige. I was just laser focused on the prestige part of it.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, let's see if we can get a prestige bump with some lucky rolls here. And hopefully get that.
Ethiopian Strikes would have been.
It
would be a quite useful
Yeah, well, because it moves Somalia to neutral, poor neutral, and removes the Islamist rule.
Yeah, yeah.
So I missed the roll on Benelux. I got it on Italy, so that's 1. And I missed it on France. So I gained 1 prestige on that. But then I was like, oh, that's kind of interesting. Set Somalia to poor neutral. And I'm like, oh, wait a sec, let's take that one.
Yeah, that sounds just fine to me.
And set back the AI big time.
I know. Like now it's got to start working away at it.
Now it has no base. There's no well, I guess Afghanistan, but
oh yeah, because you haven't finished Afghanistan off yet. You haven't either. I forgot about that.
So now it's trying to win back Somalia there.
It seems to me though, so with these regime changes, I mean, you can be stuck in them for a while.
Yes. Well, that's by design, because Volko wanted regime changes are easy to get into but hard to get out of.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Right, that was the whole idea behind the design. So
right.
And you can see here they flipped Somalia right back. So but it was a bit of a distraction.
Sure.
And so I thought that was that was pretty good. So still trying to do some more of ideas. Get
a potential little misdirect from them, eh?
Yeah.
For you.
And missed that one again. So, but this is an event. It again places a cell in Iraq or Iran. I don't mind. Doesn't matter to me. It scatters them a little bit, and makes it harder for them to congregate.
Yeah.
Try again with Adam Gadon. Missed again. Or sorry, no, we got that one. Sorry, we got it. Then he plays the Lebanon War, so I lose Abu Ghraib, which normally I'd be happy about, but in this case, it's the opposite I'm excited about. And then I'm like, oh, but I got Bhutto, and then he plays Amerithrax, and I have to discard Bhutto. So I'm stuck with FRE's 1-op and foreign fighters, which I definitely do not want to play. So.
No, are you going to trash that one?
War of Ideas.
War.
And anyway,
are you going to hold that to discard?
No, it was good actually, because I got that one, and so my prestige bumped up to 4 again. It was lost. Now I was considering it here because there's only 1 cell in the thing, but I'm like, no, I'll just get rid of it. So
it's not worth it. Not worth the risk for you.
Yeah. Now the big risk now is you look at how many countries are hard on terror. If the election comes out and the Democrats win, I could be in real trouble. I gotta spend a lot of time flipping those around.
Yeah, and we are in the reshuffle, aren't we?
Yeah. So he recruits to Afghanistan and then travels to Gulf states and Saudi Arabia, and actually misses with both of those. Or he tries to. What does he try to do there? Oh, he tried to recruit there, I think. So Anyway, that was the last of that turn. So still looking okay. I just need to. My prestige is in a decent spot. So.
Okay.
Now
boy, it looks like you got a little heavier on his events than yours, but that's okay.
Yeah, and pirates suddenly is an issue. As well. Pirates can be activated now. Somalia's.
It is the Somali pirates, yes.
So he tried for a jihad in Afghanistan and Pakistan and missed both, thankfully.
Okay.
Because that would have set me back in big time. Does a posture test in China, and
so this has been an interesting. It feels like you had a push, then it kind of like a setback,
Yep.
then a put. Like it's just sort of like this ebb and flow kind of back and forth kind of game.
Yeah. Now, and this is where the game can kind of flip a bit on you in a way, because you see now he's congregating in Iraq.
Yeah,
so
He
needs 6 resources to win, and so he tries to move to the Caucasus for whatever reason. But what's interesting is if he gets Algeria and Iraq, then he wins.
Game over.
So it's not. Like, he just needs to travel some cells and get a couple lucky rolls, and he could win this hand actually, with a lucky roll or two. So it's, even though I'm ahead,
it's not a guarantee
yet. It's not
yet.
a done deal. It is not a done deal.
Okay.
So, so I managed to shift. Oh, I forgot to mention, I managed to shift Indonesia to an ally, which is great.
Okay,
So kind of
you've made some steps there too. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm.
Are you going to worry about Indonesia?
Three lucky cards away from winning.
Are you worrying about Indonesia before you worry about Afghanistan?
Well, no, I'd love to end, because the risk with Afghanistan is that it worsens to poor again, through some sort of event or unfortunate circumstances. Okay. So I want to actually get it to good if I can.
You want that regime change done?
I want to get it done, and it's a 0 modifier. It's just a straight roll, which is 5 or 6, and I missed.
Yeah.
So I'm going to take the martyrdom operations, which doesn't harm me really at all.
No. Now you're going to go into Indonesia with that one.
Yeah, but I missed that roll. So
okay.
So he's going to place 2 plots in Algeria. And I'm fine with playing. Sometimes martyrdom operation can be good for the U.S. because if the jihadist is out of position like this, it actually sets back. It makes it actually harder now for things to happen in Algeria, because the cell is, now there's another cell that needs to get there.
Right. Yep.
So sometimes I'll play it if the position is in a certain way. I find it's great because it eliminates a cell, and if the plots don't hurt me directly, like if the jihadist is already at 9 and I don't have troops there, then who cares? Just let him go.
So how do you feel about him being kind of scattered or centralized in 2 main spots on the board like he is here? Well, I guess besides
this
Somalia.
This is where it gets tricky now, because he missed the role in Iraq, but you can see he's not too far off. Again, a couple of lucky travels and so forth, and Iraq and Algeria could flip, and that's the game. And so it's not an emergency yet, but you could see how it could potentially be an issue.
Yeah,
depending on what
you've got to be cautious for sure.
Yeah, for sure. So,
okay, but that being said, I mean, you're only a couple cards away from I imagine correct. 3 cards from victory here, if you potentially.
Yes.
Because
So I'm looking to take advantage of that Gaza war, I think, to discard a card to no effect.
Oh yes.
But I'm gonna see if I can get Afghanistan to good. Here's the roll, and I got it finally.
Excellent. There we go.
So now we're on the home stretch.
Yeah.
And
now you don't have. Oh, you have 1 3-banger left there. Okay.
But it's not a great event.
No.
It's actually a pretty bad event for me overall, because I lose prestige and.
Yeah. Do you want to use it or not, or would you rather?
Well, this is kind of the trick, because I need to. I've got pirates, which isn't a great event, because then the funding doesn't drop for the jihadist at the end of turn, which it normally does.
Yeah.
And although at this stage in the game, I guess technically it may not be so bad, but I just worry about the tide turning suddenly and the game being extended a little bit longer.
And then you could be in trouble.
Pirates is. Yeah, so it's one of those things where, it's great if the game ends quickly, then who cares? Play pirates and take the event. But
did you put it in reserve?
No, I took out a cell in Iraq because I was getting a little bit nervous. He played Fatwa, and
okay,
and then he plays Gaza War,
and you got to discard a random. You know what? I mean,
but pirates ends up getting discarded, so that actually ended up being fine for me. I didn't actually need it, so
yeah.
So now my prestige is just barely. It's at 4. So
you had Gitmo. Okay, so that's
because he swapped with Fatwa. So I'm gonna go for Indonesian. I missed. I was hoping to do King Abdullah as the follow-up to that
for the win.
So I'll take the event. I'll gain a prestige, and he gets more funding, which is fine. And then does some recruiting. And he does some recruiting in Iraq and misses, so that's fine.
Now, will you use your last event there at Taliban to go into Indonesia, or no?
Yeah, so he tried to travel from Somalia to Canada, and
Canada said no.
Yes, and Gulf states does not make it there either. Sorry, what was your question?
Were you thinking of using Taliban for a War of Ideas?
Well, no, but I lose some prestige.
So it's not worth it.
So I just like, I'll just drop it. And
so you'll let it go.
Get a fresh crop of cards.
Yeah.
And so
you'll have probably better options too next round.
Yeah. So you can see right here again. So Iraq and Iraq. So now he's in a position to flip Iraq. And this is what I mean. Like, even though the AI made some mistakes and so forth, they can suddenly come out of nowhere and, you know, come pretty close to winning. You know, it's surprising.
Now, he does get the first option. I mean, I don't see how he can pull everything off in time.
So if he gets a lucky roll, first roll, and flips Iraq, now he's at 5.
The best he could.
Sorry, he's at 4.
Yeah, then he could try to get over to Algeria, but that would he'll still need.
It still takes some
time.
He'll
need a second turn. Yeah.
Yes,
he'll need. You've got all the cards you need to win.
Except look what I got in hand: U.S. election,
which you don't need to play though right away.
I don't need to play right away.
You also have oil spike
this turn. Yes, so
you have a.
But if the Democrats win the election,
if you get a couple bad rolls, you could be in trouble. But
yes, exactly.
You are going to want to make sure you win it before you play the election. I'd say.
Yes, exactly. So.
Now, if you were to play the election, you get to use the ops first, do you not?
You can do, yeah.
Yes, you could, even if you absolutely had to.
Yeah. So, yes, for sure. Now, he missed the major jihad in Iraq. He got a besieged regime, if I'm not mistaken there.
Yes.
Yeah, so he came close with that roll. It could have been pretty darn close. So now it's just like, well, am I thinking short term or long term? I've got to use 3 ops for Indonesia right now. And I have that at a +1 because of neighboring Pakistan gives me the boost.
So is it time to drop in Bhutto?
Yeah, well, do I use Bhutto? Because that prevents jihad. But I'm like, you know what? This game's almost over.
Oh, and now it really is almost over.
So I got it to fair. Now let's see what we can do. War of Ideas
for the win.
Sorry, for the wrong. Yeah, I'm going to use that one instead of oil price spike.
And this. And there it is. There it is.
Yeah. So.
Whoa.
Yeah, it was a bit of back and forth there.
Very much so. But you pulled it out. Yeah, that was great.
Yeah, so,
that was great. There was some really cool ebbs and flows in it. Yeah.
So it was a challenging game, and I find playing solitaire in this game is challenging. It's fun.
Yeah. Well, hey, thanks for taking us through what you were thinking there. That was really great.
Yeah, and I hope the viewers got some ideas out of it and are willing to play a game of Labyrinth sometime soon.
Lots of fun.
Yeah. So anyway, thanks for those of you who made it this far. Thank you so much for watching. And we really appreciate you taking the time. And if you wouldn't mind taking a moment to like and subscribe down below, it helps out our channel a lot. This is Legendary Tactics.